Welcome to another session of Mrs. Royce's Accounting Lecture Series. Today we're going to learn how to prepare payroll records. What we are going to work on together today is work together 12-1 on the book. So I need you to turn to page 313 in your working papers. And here's the instructions from the work together for 12.1. So please pause the video and go ahead and get out your papers. Now I know we've all read the chapter and you've turned in your audit for understanding questions, but now what we're going to do is we're going to read the instructions together to find out what we need to do as the payroll administrators for this company. So what it's telling us to do is we have to calculate hourly earnings. So this is a time card, October 15th. If you look over on her time card, this is what it would look like. It says pay period ended October 15th. Those things match. It's for Alice Webster. Check. Alice Webster. Okay. What we are going to do is, number one, we're going to calculate the regular overtime and total hours work for Miss Webster. Now it's telling us any hours over 8 hours a day or 40 hours a week, which in your reading you learned that some companies do provide overtime if you work more than 8 hours a week. The standard is more than 40 hours a week. Okay? Each work week begins on Monday. Record the total hours on the time card. So now what we have to do is we have to look at her time card. The first thing that the time card tells us is the employee number. Each company, each employee is going to have an employee number, and that's going to become apparent later. Remember, we have to keep the employment records for each employee. This is for Alice, for pay period ending. So now what we have to do, or a payroll clerk would have to do, or the payroll accountant would have to do, is figure out how many hours she worked a day. Normally, an employee will fill this out. Your job then would be to check it to make sure it's right. What this is asking us to do is fill it out for us. So we look in the morning. She clocked in 7:54. Within that time frame, we're going to call it 8 o'clock to 12. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That was what she worked in the morning. What did she work in the evening? She got there, we'll call it 1 o'clock. So 2, 3, 4, 5. Her regular hours for that day, 4 plus 4 is 8. Did she work any overtime? No, she did not. Okay. Let's move to the next one. She got there at 8 o'clock. Worked till 11:52. We'll give her that 8 minutes. So 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Here she worked 1:06. We'll back it up to 1 to give her the benefit of the doubt. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many hours did she work? Yes, 4 plus 4 is 8. Perfect. Now you go down to the next one. Again, can we do it in our head? I want you to pause the video and I want you to finish this time card out. I am going to finish the time card out and we'll see if we match. Okay, so is this what your time card looks like? After the 8 hours she worked there, here she actually worked overtime, her regular 8 hours a day, and 3.5 hours worth of overtime. Here, she worked her 8 hours a day. On Monday the 8th, she worked her 8 hours a day. Tuesday the 9th, can you see where I'm getting this? 8 to 12, 12 to 6. She worked her 8 hours plus an hour's worth of overtime. Then she went back to her normal hours. Now it's interesting, on Saturday the 13th, she worked just 3 hours. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This put her at her 40 hours. which meant these 3 hours that she worked on Saturday, overtime, this was regular time. Interesting how they did it. 8 hours through here gave her 88 total hours. Remember, for this time card, anything over 8 hours got put into overtime. Saturday, they must have told her they were paying her the $3, 3 hours overtime. So she worked a total of 88 hours, and 7.5 of that was overtime. Now what you need to do is we need to look at this, and we need to say, okay, she's employee number 4. Employee number 4. She worked a total of 88 and 7.5 hours in overtime. Now it's time for us to figure out the regular rate earnings and overtime. So how do we do that? How do we do overtime? That's right. Your regular rate times 1.5 equals your overtime rate. So if we take out our handy dandy calculator, and I'll put it over here, we're going to figure out the regular overtime and total earnings for each employee. So the hours worked for employee number 1 was 80 times his $9 an hour equals exactly 720. Now, how do we figure his overtime? We take his $9 an hour times 1.5. That gives us the $13.50. So his overtime rate is $13.50. He worked 5 hours, times it by 5. It gives you $67.50 in overtime. Add that to your 720 regular. His total earnings before taxes is $787.50. Let's look at the next person. So now let's look at the second employee. They work their 80 hours a week. Their rate is $12.50 an hour. Their regular earnings is, now do their overtime, $12.50 times 1.5. Their overtime rate is $18.75 times 3 hours, $56.25. Add that to the 1,000. And their total earnings is $1056.25. Okay, perfect. Let's look at the next one. 70 hours. Did he work any overtime at all? No, he did not. So we do 70 hours times 9.75 gives you $682.50. No overtime. There's the line to show that at least we know what we're doing. $682.50. Final. Now we're doing Alice. She worked 88 regular hours times her $11 an hour. $968 is her regular pay. Now she makes $11 an hour times 1.5, $16.50 times the 7.5 hours. Add those two together. Gives you her total earnings. Okay, perfect. You have now just done a time card, and you have now just done you figured out the employee earnings. Now what I would like you to do is do the on your own. I am showing you right now the on your own time card so that you can see what it looks like and compare it and make sure. And then what you're going to do is you're going to do just what we did here in the work together. You're going to figure out the hours worked, the overtime, and total earnings. Okay, so this was the Mrs. Royce's lecture series on how to calculate hourly employee hours and total earnings. Thank you for watching.